Hi, I'm Barbara Wesley, your host of Cibola Treasures. This edition of Cibola Treasures will feature Walter Jaramillo, and we're going to go back and look at some of the accomplishments that he has achieved with the city and with the county. Also, we have the event for our safety officers, our police officers throughout our state. And this is a big event here in Grants. So stay tuned.
El Cafecito is an icon on historic Route 66 in Grants, serving your friends, family, and visitors for 30 years. The aroma of their famous chili welcomes you as you enter. Their friendly, efficient staff greets you. What's your favorite, red or green? El Cafecito prepares your favorite chili fresh every day. A visit to the spotless kitchen reveals where the award-winning chili is made. The efficient staff are preparing El Cafecito's famous meals you can count on, the best service every day. It's always time to go to El Cafecito. If you enjoy breakfast, you'll love breakfast at El Cafecito. Try one of the top 10 rated burritos in the state of New Mexico. Or maybe you're in the mood for eggs, bacon, and hash browns with green chili. There are so many items on the menu, even French toast. Ready for lunch? Hamburgers with French fries is a great choice. Make dining out for dinner special. Try the steak prepared just the way you like it. It's a meal you will tell your friends about. Sopapillas are good any time of the day. And that's not all. El Cafecito has just the right venue for your receptions, banquets, special occasions, and business meetings. Utilize the state-of-the-art electronics for the perfect professional presentation. Late for work or need a meal quickly? Call 285-6229. The drive-up window will have your orders in a jiffy. El Cafecito is famous for the best New Mexican food and their friendly, fast service. Located at 820 East Santa Fe Avenue.
The Grants Police Memorial, held on May 18, 2016, begins with the Chief's inspection.
Morning, Chief.
Passing the inspection includes uniforms, firearms, vehicles, both inside and out. Next, the Grants High School ROTC Honor Guard and band create a tribute to our country, New Mexico, and Cibola County fallen police heroes and their families. Chief Vandiver acknowledges the sacrifice that is made by those that serve and those that have given their all.
This memorial, this ceremony others like it all across the country, all across this state, we're honoring those who made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of fellow citizens across their country, their communities, and their towns. And when I say police officers, I want to include all the titles that these officers carry around, not only in this community, but around the country. When I say police officer, I'm also referring to the sheriffs, the deputies, the troopers, patrolmen, the marshals, the rangers, And I'm sure I'm missing some, but I'm sure there's other titles, but they all do basically the same job. As you all are aware, in the newspapers, in the news, on the national news, this has been, the last couple of years has been extremely hard on our profession in the context of line of duty deaths. With the exception of September 2011, September 9th, 2011, and the tragedies that fell that day, every year, unfortunately showing an increase in the number of officers in the line of duty deaths. Read you quickly the statistics for this year. Line of duty deaths this year, 35 in the first 5 months of this year. There was 1 aircraft, 6 automobile, 1 gunfire, 2 of a heart attack, 2 of a motorcycle accident, 2 were struck by a vehicle, 1 was in a vehicle pursuit, 4 in a vehicular assault, and 17 were killed by gunfire. You break that down by month. January, there was 4 officers killed. February, 10. March, so far this year, has 16. April had 2, and May had 3. Break it down by gender. There's 33 male officers and 2 female officers. Some other statistics that struck me as interesting. The average age of the officer killed in the line of duty was 37. The average tour of duty was 11 years on the job. Not to say that it's going to take you 11 years. You remember the one in Colorado in April, the field training officer was in his 21st year, and the officer that was on duty, it was his very first day on duty. Killed on his very first day on duty. So I'm thinking about all these facts, trying to understand how it made me feel as an individual, how it made me feel as a chief, as the leader of this department. And I kept coming back to the fact that it doesn't just affect us, it doesn't just affect my department, it affects our families, it affects our immediate families, it also affects our extended families, it also affects our community. In a community this size, we all know each other. I could look down that row of deputies right there, and even though they don't work for me, I know them. I work with them every day. There's dispatchers in here who know those deputies, and then they can look over here and they know those officers. The sheriff can look down that line of my patrolman over there, and he doesn't work with them every day, but he knows who they are. We know each other. In a community this size, we know each other. We're all intertwined. We deal with people in this community every day. So as far as police officers, what makes us different? As far as basics, we're just like everybody else. Our families are just like everybody else's families. We love, we fight, we complain, we live, and we love. But we're not isolated. Everybody in here, everybody in this community, is somehow intertwined. Or somehow mixed together in there. But why are we different? There are some members of our society, I saw a statistic, 3% of the general population joined the United States military. 3%. Less than 1% of our population comes back from the military and joins the police force in some way, shape, or form. Law enforcement community. But we take, for example, our United States military. All the branches, all the military. Those are our warriors. Those are the young men and women that are protecting us as a society from the ills of this world. They are defending our nation against all of our threats. They are the ones they go where they're told and they do what they're told. Some, if not a big majority of our police officers, are former military. So you take that greater percentage of 3%, and we're still a little bit different, just a little bit different. So the best example I could think of, and I stole it from someone else, but it's very fitting. The best example I could find was the definition of a policeman is a guardian. Guard the members of our society against the wills or against those people who want to do harm to our community. Our communities as a whole. Not just our family, but our community as a whole. We are separate. We are different, but we are not separate. I want to read something. I read it last year. It still fits this year. The symbol of why we are different. It's the symbol of our police badge. The badge in any form, whatever form it takes, whether it looks like a star or a shield or it's round. It's a symbol of authority. That symbol is never given. It is always earned. It is only bestowed upon the person who has earned it. It is a symbol represented by being worn on the left side of the chest, so that all those who see it know that that person has earned the right to carry it there. It is protected by those who wear it. Those who tarnish it are treated most harshly by those who understand its meaning and who understand what it takes to earn it and wear it.
Closing the day's event is placing the wreath at the Memorial Cemetery.
Officers, attend, up!
Public safety officials were represented by the Cibola County Sheriff's Office, the New Mexico State Police, and the Grants Police Department.
Ready! Fire! 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 Forward! Arms!
Order, arms!
Order! Arms!
I'd like to thank everybody for coming out. It's great to see the support from our community, not only family members of law enforcement officers, but friends of law enforcement officers. As I look around the crowd, I see a lot of children around, and that's where it starts at. The Head Start, they're always out. Everything that we do as law enforcement is supporting us, and it's troubling times for law enforcement now, and we got to change that image of law enforcement. You know, we're here to help. We try to be as professional and courteous as we can all the time, and with our youth, we need to get back to respect law enforcement officers, appreciate law enforcement officers. You know, you used to go to the elementary schools and people would say, you ask a little kid, what do you want to be? I want to be a cop. I want to be a fireman. We need to get that back in our community. So it's great to see. It's great to see everybody here, the support. And again, I thank everybody for coming out. At this time, Pastor Clark will lead us in a benediction.
Let's pray again. Officers, at ease.
Lord, again, we thank you for this opportunity to be here and to remember, especially to remember like the Aragon family. Lord, I pray that on this day and in times like this that you just that you bless all those that have lost loved ones in the line of duty, that you bless them and that you comfort them during times like this, Lord. And for those that are continuing to serve and protect us, Lord, I just pray a blessing of courage, strength over them, that they could continue to do all the good work that they do for us. Thank you for the chance to live in this city together, to live in this state together. Thank you for the chance to be community and to be family together. Help us all to do our part, Lord, just to encourage and strengthen each other. It's in the name of Jesus that we pray. Amen.
Hi, I'm Craig at Air Care Heating, Cooling, and Plumbing Supply here in Grants, New Mexico, at 105 Golds Drive here, just up the street from Smith's on the left-hand side. Today we want to show you a few of our products that we've got in. It's about time to de-winterize those water heaters and get them ready for summer. This anode screws right in where your drain plug is on your water heater on an RV. You stick this in there, screw it in, tighten it up. It's just like the plug. And what this does is it collects all the nasty water deposits and stuff like that get in your water heater and stick to the sides. Next item I've got, I always bring this up on my commercials, is the filters. Your filters in your heaters, your air conditioners, any type of filter you got, it's just like a car filter. If you don't take care of it, it don't take care of you. Come on in and check us out. It's called 287-9031. And my cell number, remember, if it's late at night and you have a problem, call me, 290-1557. Come on in and see us. Thank you for your support.
Welcome to this segment of Cibola Treasures. In our studio today is Walter Jaramillo. And Walter, I want to welcome you because you have at one time hosted K-Pasa.
And it was fun.
Right. Well, we are going to go back a little bit in history when you were a city councilman and you were involved in implementing a number of different things in our community. So let's start with the city. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up, because I saw this last week as I was heading to your office, there were a group of youngsters along with adults that were fishing in the pond there at the Riverwalk Park. So let's talk about how that came to be.
Well, one of the things is I wanted to bring more people to the Riverwalk. There's other stuff going on in the city. There's your baseball games. You know you have baseball fields. We put a lot of money in the fields and stuff. But anyway, I sat down with the game and fish guy, Craig Sanchez, and I says, "Is there any way we can stock this with fish and just have a place for the kids to fish, the kids in the handicap?" Because a lot of people that are handicapped can't go to the lake and drive to the edge. They might get stuck. Wheelchairs can't get in there. So it was mostly I was thinking of wheelchair, accessibility, and the kids. And he says, well, he says, we've got to go through the Game and Fish Commission. It was a huge process, but he helped me with it, and we got it done. And first of all, we had to get it on the fishing proclamation. In order for it to be a place for fish can be put in from the hatcheries, it had to be on the proclamation. So that was the first step, was getting it on the proclamation. Once we got on the proclamation, then the hatcheries would recognize us as one of their stops to drop off fish. And of course, we have trout hatcheries throughout New Mexico and along the Rio Grande and the Pecos River and the Animas River. But we also wanted to put catfish in there. We don't have catfish hatcheries. So we had to come up with a way to get them from Arkansas. And then they had to be warm fish catfish because the pond is so shallow. Then the next step that had to be done was it had to be, it had to have, how do I want to say it? It had to have oxygen in it.
An aerator.
Aerator. So then as a councilman, that's where I went in and convinced the rest of the council and the mayor and the other government officials that sat on there with us that we needed to spend a little bit more money in the pond and put aerators in it, because it's an artesian well, and yeah, it runs, but it's not going to, there's no fish can't survive in that. So we've got an aerating system put in there, and they would come and test the water, and once it was tested and they see that the fish could survive, the first batch we brought, we found them belly up. So then we had to change the aerators and so on and so forth. And now it's going just as, it's been 10 years.
Well, my son was a scout, and every year they took a trip through the Gila River and Gila Wilderness area. Sometimes they hiked, and sometimes they took rafts down the Gila River. And he developed his love for fishing there. And then when he was in high school, he was in Oklahoma, went to a school in Oklahoma, and he worked for a bridge painting company. And on his lunch hour, he would fish. And so his friends named him a fishing fool, because he would have fish several times a week for the crew.
Once you do that, you get hooked in doing that.
Right.
You just want to do it.
That's right, you do. And it's so much fun. I mean, it's relaxing, but it's also, you can contemplate, you can have the quiet time you need, and you can enjoy fishing. And then if you love to eat fish, you've got your dinner, right? So that's a great opportunity. But I saw some youngsters out there fishing that day, and I thought about you and the work that you put into making that happen.
Well, it takes all of us. It takes, like I said, Game and Fish, Craig Sanchez, the Game and Fish Commission that meets. There's a big commission that meets, and they decide where they're going to send fish and what's going to be on the proclamation. So it was a big process, and it took a lot of my time. And when I ran for office, it was about the kids. It wasn't about potholes, and it wasn't about it's just bizarre. Is when you run for office, you get a plate about this about this big, and it's about this high of stuff that's on people's minds. And you know, my goal was the kids, and that was one project that I wanted to see done. I wanted to bring people to the river walk and have them something to do besides, and the ducks weren't around either. The ducks have really come, you know, they've been using this as a stop also, but schools have been using that pond as a field trip now. And you probably saw a field trip at that time when you were passing through there.
I saw one yesterday. A group of youngsters were heading down that way yesterday. They were walking, probably from St. Teresa's, or anyway, they were walking that way. And so to be able to spend a morning or an afternoon there, have your picnic lunch, but now there's some other things. Let's go on to some other things that are really important in our community. And that is the Animal Care Center. You were instrumental in moving that project forward because at one time it wasn't called the Animal Care Center. I guess what was it called at that before when we had the dog? I guess it was the dog pound.
Well, yeah.
And it was in deplorable shape. And what was the process that you went through to get the Animal Care Center started?
Well, that process was also fines sitting over our head from the EPA, you know, saying, you know what, this is inhumane. You know, there's no way we can adopt animals out because the building was so old. It had parvo. I mean, diseases were in the walls and the floors. And, you know, you can go and try and adopt these animals out. They would end up dying on whoever the recipients were. And the APA just says that, you know, we couldn't adopt any dogs from there unless we've cleaned our act up. And we had to euthanize the animals. We just didn't have a choice. And which wasn't right. You know, there was perfectly fine little puppies, good dogs that needed to go to a home, but we couldn't adopt them out just because of we just had to upgrade our building. And that was another process that we did, and we looked for funding, and we got it done. Marty V. Hill was the chief of police. He was instrumental in that too, so we don't want to forget about him. And he was the one that really helped move it along, and that's how it ended up falling under the police enforcement jurisdiction or supervision. And then at that time we had started the sports complex, which, like I said, when I ran for office, it was about the kids. We had kids spread out all over Grants. We had a baseball field in San Jose Drive. We were having to worry about portable bathrooms and water and shelter and shade and upkeep. And I said, you know what, let's make one sports complex. We put all the kids in one field, and we build running water bathrooms, and we have a concession stand, because where Futures was when I was young was a sports complex. There was a swimming pool there, you had your baseball fields, you had playgrounds, you had slides, and your fields, and your concession stands, and running, you know, bathrooms with running water where you can actually clean your hands. Those are the issues that I ran on, and those are probably the issues of what got me elected, to be honest with you, was about those projects. And anyway, we started working on that sports complex, and we had some land donated to us from Frank Sippen. He's a guy that is involved with he owned just a whole bunch of property, and anyway, he donated some property to the city and for the sports complex, and for us to add on, along with the Candelarias, because the Candelarias are the ones that donated a lot of that property also. But anyhow, we made that decision. We didn't have a place to build this animal shelter, so we made the decision to put it up there. And I said, you know what, let's put it up here. Maybe, you know, when they come to a game, they might come and look at the dogs. It didn't work out that way. You know, this is the vision that you have is, well, they're out here getting games. They might walk over here. They might adopt a pet, go back to their game, go home, and they'll take a dog. I mean, it didn't work out that way. The animal shelter works in its own ways. The baseball program works in its own ways, and the playground and so on and so forth. But anyway, that's where we ended up building it, was up there. And that was the vision. Like I says, I've envisioned getting these animals adopted out through the kids and the families that came to the games.
Well, I think right now the animal care center is managed well, and dogs and cats are being adopted out on a regular basis. And when they have an overflow, I'm told that there have been times when an organization in Colorado will take them and adopt them out. So, but we do, and this might be a time to talk about dogs running loose in our community. We still have some of that problem with dogs that are not tagged. In fact, we saw one just this last week, a little Chihuahua that was running all across the street, and we happened to be out watering. He hadn't had water, and he came and lapped up the water, but he wouldn't let us pick him up. He just darted out again. And but no tag. But he
And I'm
looked
sure
like
he's somebody's, you know.
and he looked well fed, but maybe he was lost.
Well, the other thing that we created in that process, Barbara, is, and I wanted to give the community their voice in these projects, was boards. We created the animal board, and then we created the recreation board. I don't like to say that I'm sad to see that the boards ain't working, but we had created them so that they would work. Everybody that sits on the board is a person from the community, and they're the ones that are involved with sports. They're the ones involved with animals, and the council and the commission or whatever government that are in charge of these boards or are supposed to listen to the boards, they don't. You know, these boards get together. Let's say you're on the animal board, and you like you just said, you know, I sit on the animal board or I sit on the recreation board. You know, all these boards that you hear about, we brought them about because I wanted the people to make decisions of whatever, because they're involved with it. Like I says, I was involved with sports, but I'm not involved with too much of what's happening with animals. I'm not too much involved with what's happening at the cemetery or the library, because there's a library board. So if you put those together, then they're the ones that come in and say, this is what we need to do. And then they come to the council and say, this is what we come up with. You should listen to them because they're the ones involved. We're just councilmen or commissioners, and we're just there to help them with their policies.
Okay, well, we're going to need to take a break.
Okay?
Really quick. So we'll be right back, so don't go away, because Walter Jaramillo has some more things to share with us about what has gone on in Grants. So stay tuned.
Oh no, maybe he'll give me a warning.
108 regional. I'll be on a traffic stop.
105,
I'm with the Cibola County Sheriff's Office. The reason I'm stopping you is because you weren't maintaining your lane. Do you have your driver's license, registration, and insurance with you today?
Yes, I do.
Sir, have you consumed any alcohol today?
No, I haven't.
I can smell alcohol coming from the vehicle, sir. Are you sure?
Okay, maybe I had 2 beers.
Sir, place your hands behind your back for me. I'm going to be placing you under arrest for DWI.
Well, welcome back. We have Walter Jaramillo here with us, and we're talking about some of the things that he was involved in, implemented, or helped to implement in the city. And we're going to move on through some more of those things because we still have the county to deal with, and then and then we still have a new state law that's going into effect very soon. So we need to cover those things. So
Yes.
what else has happened in the city that you want to?
Well, like I says, those were my deals. Like I says, was the animals and the kids. Then, like I says, it comes along other problems or other issues, and we had a problem with the Nimitz Bridge. If you remember, we had to stop the crossover of traffic. Well, buses. Because the buses were at that limit that weren't supposed to be crossing over it because it was unsafe. So we had to chase down funding. That was one of those deals that we went to Washington, and we had to they were well, we didn't have to go to Washington, but we did. But they were looking to give out money for infrastructure or whatever, shovel ready. You know, it was like we have money for shovel ready projects. So, you know, the Nimitz Bridge, we started working on that. We wanted to get it up and ready. We had the engineering done. We did what we needed to do to have it a shovel ready project, to present it to the feds to see if they can help us with that. And they did. We were able to get the Nimitz Bridge done. And that's one of the bridges that was done that was a shovel ready project. I have some notes here that I was going through the list as I was talking to my wife, and I said, I have so much stuff here. The Nimitz Bridge, and then of course we had First Street, and right here, that was another one that needed to get done. That was some state funding. We put up new lighting, striping, and there's only so much funding you can get. So we only went up to Washington. That's another comprehensive plan that you can't get done in 8 years. I did 8 years on the city, and you always hope that the next commission or the next council carries it on. But you know, you get people that run for office and they're on different agendas.
But with the rest from here to Washington, we've got a problem with the plume that has the Environmental Protection Agency. We can't go from the bridge on down because until that's taken care of, and it may be years before the rest of that is taken care of. So it's probably going to be Washington to Roosevelt instead.
Yeah, you're right. And the plume was one of the other projects that we had to work on too, in order to move forward with doing the projects on the roads.
Okay.
The other project that we were involved in was our water tank. It was getting old, and it needed to either be refurbished or we needed to build another one. Well, we decided to build a new one and refurbish this one. So in case there's another boom, we can fill up that other one and be ready for the boom. But then again, the infrastructure is so old that, you know, we have to work on that. You know, there was so much stuff that comes out when you run for government, is your roads, your infrastructure. The other project that I worked on was between Grants and Milan. And these are in my district. You know, my district falls right in the middle of Grants. So, you know, I was always looking. Nimitz Bridges in my district, First Street, Santa Fe Avenue, 2nd Street, and all the way into Milan. So, you know, I did work hard in my districts to get them done, and it was easy for me because they were in the middle, they were in the heart of the city.
Well, I think that, you know, we have been, from the inception of grants, a boom and a bust community. And the things, I look around and I see the things that were implemented in the 50s and 60s were great, but they did not continue because the funding was not there. And so we need to be aware that we can come back as a viable economic community, as a county. We just need to be utilizing those things from the past that worked well, and then being progressive enough to embrace those things that will work with our environment and our logistical impact today. We need to be progressive, but not take on things that are unproven.
And you, like I said, sometimes as we've been there, we've done that, but that doesn't mean don't try it again.
That's
you know, there are a lot of people say, oh, we've already done that, we tried it, but it's different times. Times are different. I mean, now with this Facebook and media, social media, you know, we can promote grants in a different way now and get them over here. We can promote it at a place where you can retire, build homes. You know, there's just a whole nother aspect of grants. When I was young, you know, when we were graduating in '84, and I'll say that over and over again, the mines were, you know, there was 800 men at it's called Workforce Solution, but at that time it's called unemployment. I guess that's why we call it the unemployment office, because we only went there if we were unemployed, to get unemployment benefits. But there was 800 men and women in line that day like today is graduation, by the way. that on graduation day, we were sitting there thinking, where are we going to go? Thought we were going to work in, we thought we were going to be uranium miners
Right.
when we were in ninth grade.
And those people that were providing cattle and horses to the military out at Fort Wingate thought Fort Wingate was going to be here forever also. So we need to be thinking about what does the future hold for us. Now, let's jump over to the county, because there's some things that have been implemented at the county that we need to, I mean, we could go on here for 2 or 3 hours talking about all of the things that you've been involved in. But let's talk about the county real quick.
Well, the county is going through some issues there with the building. The building is a historical building in our eyes. You know, it was a high school, then it became a elementary school, which I went to school there. It was called Sierra Vista Elementary, and I went all 6 years there, or K through 6th. And through the bus, like we just said, the town went through a bus, so then they kind of we lost the population of kids, so they moved a lot of kids around, decided which school was the most old, you know, the one that needed the most work, and that was sitting like in a flooding area. And you know, I don't know exactly all the issues, but it was an older school than Mesa View and Mount Taylor. And they closed it down, so then it sat there. The county had just became a county in '82. The county is one of the youngest counties in the state. I think there's one more after us, I think, but we're pretty close to being one of the youngest, and we're a huge one. So the offices were over there by St. Teresa's, and they were in portables. We had our clerk's office, and I think the treasurer and clerks were in one portable. Your manager was in one portable, and that's all it was. And your commission was created, and you know, we became a government in '82. Well, that time they said that they were going to try and get this building, and we've been in there since it's become a county. It is historical in some aspects. Some of the building needs to be raised down and getting rid of, you know, where the courts were. And the courts are the ones that are the biggest issue. So now we bought the La Mesa Mall. That was a controversial deal. We went and did the bonded some money, paid off the hospital, redid some loans with the jail, because when they built the hospital, well, they built the hospital first, the county did. And then at the same time, they added they used the hospital to finance the jail. They were all tied up in the same bond for some reason or other. So that was a project that we had to work on when I came into the commission, was either we had to pay one off or figure out a way to separate the two different bonds. So that's what we had to do first of all. And once we were able to do that, free the hospital up, so the hospital's free. You know, whatever it costed the taxpayers, the hospital's paid off. We're still paying. We got about another 3 years on the jail. Now we've refinanced and did another bond. Now we're building a new county complex for $12 million, and then we're going to have to dig into the reserve for probably another $500,000, maybe $1 million more out of the reserve to finish that project.
Well, this is just what I see, and of course I'm sure that there would be those that disagree with me, but I see that becoming a hub again. That strip mall across the street, I see those buildings being occupied. I see people going to work at the new county complex, shopping at Smith's. Smith's becomes a hub for shopping more so than it is now, because you stop in there on your way home to pick up your groceries, and you're going to be seeing. And then, of course, I think the high school is going to have their culinary arts in that facility where Dairy Queen used to be.
They're already there. It's already in place and going.
So I see that as becoming a good opportunity for that part of the city. And you've got adequate parking there. That's a problem for the county. Where do you park at the county? I've heard people say that they've been in court when the snow was coming through the roof over there, and then all of the water in the district attorney's office that comes down that. So we've got all those problems, And I see the Historical Society wanting to create something new down there to keep tourists
Right.
down there.
And it is, like I says, there's parts of that building that are a landmark. You people have passed through here and seen that landmark. It's got that steeple in the front. Some people think it's a church, because one day I was out there and he goes, "What is this? What was it? A church?" Because they're trying to figure out what it used to be. And I said, "No, it's always been a school." And that steeple was the school bell. I mean, that was, it used to
Right.
ring, and that was, recess was over, class was starting. So it was a functional steeple.
Okay.
The veterans, I see the veterans trying, I want to get the veterans in there so that at least we can get the veterans kind of coming in
Sure,
there.
sure.
And then, like you said, the Historical Society will be the ones, and we could turn it into museum. We can have Spanish history. We can have Native history. We can have mining history. I mean, there's so much history, logging history.
Well,
There's just so much history.
there is, and we are rich in that. We're going to have to take another break because we're not finished yet. We've just got some more, we've just gotten started. And so we'll be right back. So please stay tuned.
Riverside Auto Diesel is the place to go for everything mechanical. Bicycles, motorcycles, RVs, cars, and semis too. Car a little sluggish? Riverside Auto Diesel can fix you up with routine oil changes and a tune-up. Then your car or truck will have superb engine performance. Tires for every truck or car are available at Riverside Auto Diesel. You'll experience the difference with the right tire for your vehicle. Transmissions need routine service. Don't get caught in the middle of nowhere with a transmission failure. A cool car is a pleasure to drive when the weather is not. An air conditioner leak can be repaired and you're off to an enjoyable summer. When your car breaks down or you have an unfortunate accident, Riverside Auto Diesel has road service and towing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Friendly, knowledgeable, ASE certified mechanics. Riverside Auto Diesel is New Mexico state approved. For all of your mechanical and automotive needs, see Keith Ford at Riverside Auto Diesel, located at 1433 East Old Historic Route 66. Call 287-3543 or 290-7459.
Well, we're here with Walter Jaramillo, and we are looking at the past, we're looking at the challenges of the future. And what we're going to deal with now is some of the things with the signage, the signs all over the county. Let's talk about why we have those signs.
Well, it was at Homeland Security with this ISIS, the 9/11, so on and so forth. And it was a grant that we chased down. We wanted to bring our dispatch center up to speed. In order for us to get funding for dispatch, we'd have to have signage. So that's a federal grant that we got to be able to name every road in the county. We had to have every road named and signage on the road. And that was a challenge because we couldn't get it done immediately. I think we were pretty much, every road is named and signed. I mean, we are going through issues now. When we are doing the signing or the naming of roads, we didn't know, like I says, we had to also create another department in the county just for that. So we had to create another payroll person to put on payroll so that they go out and do this. And there was some roads that we just named because a person lived on there. If Chavez's lived there, we named it Chavez. So now we're getting, a lot of people coming back and saying, well, why is it named Chavez? Why is it named this? Because that person lives there. So we're going back and we're looking at these roads and naming them. Some of the residents are probably that, hey, you named it Chavez, now you're going to change it. But those are the only reasons that we had to get them named now. But we're going back, and that's the challenge now, is going back and changing the name because we named them after residents there.
Sure. Well, here's what I see, both the city, the county, and the village. And even with our schools, the federal government dictates some things. Then as it passes through the state has other requirements. And when it gets down to the local level, you're having to comply with the federal and the state requirements and laws in order to get the money that you've applied for. And the money doesn't just come in. We have a need to repave all of our streets in grants, right? But where is the money going to come from? And so you pursue the money that's available at that time and try to make it happen.
Right. And people come up to you and they'll say, well, what are we doing work putting signage up? Like now, I guess 66, I'm not sure. Like I says, I'm not involved with the city anymore. I mean, we're on the same page when it comes to ordinances and stuff like that. But I think it's Route 66 or New Mexico, true. But I mean, and I like these signs. Like I says, I've been seeing them all over. It tells you where the high school is, tells you where Lobo Canyon is, where Mount Taylor is. Those are nice signs. And people say, well, why are we spending money on that when we can be putting them in the roads? But like you said, they don't understand that's the money that you find.
Well, first of all, let's clarify what the city was doing. The golf course had these metal signs that they needed to do something with. And so they came along and said, let's reuse those, and we'll put in directions on how to get to the hospital, how to get to the high school, how to get to different places. And I've heard many people say they are so attractive.
They are.
And it tells people coming into our community that we're not back in the Middle Ages anymore. We've come up and we're doing some things that are right. But that was money that, in my opinion, was well spent.
Yes.
Because it was reusing something that was just going to sit there and not be utilized.
But you get, like I says, as a city official or government official, you go to Walmart. People catch you and say, hey, why are we using money here? Why, and those are what you hear. Like I says, you might hear positive stuff because you're on a different end, but as a government official, we mostly hear what we're doing wrong than what we're doing right.
Sure. Well, let's talk about the Candy Kitchen area real quick, because there's some needs out there. And, it's been a long time since I've been to Candy Kitchen. I used to be out at the Rama and Navajo area because I was working out there on a project, but I don't get out there very often. So what about safety and the road conditions?
Well, like he says, there's so much funding and so much manpower, so much equipment. So we try to get out and help. Sometimes if they're not within, what happens, Barbara, is somebody owns a huge property and then they sell, they pave the road, or they don't even pave it, they blade it, and then they section it off and they come to the county and we say, okay, we'll let you split it, why are you splitting it, so on and so forth. So this person goes and splits up this property, calls it a development, but it's never really a county road. And that what becomes an issue is, so then I come in from New York and I buy property back here. I'm paying taxes on that property, but why can't I get to my house? And that's what the issue is there is. And I do believe that we should bring them onto the tax rolls, or at least be part of the roads that we maintain. But what we ask people to do, and that's the challenge, is if you guys build the road up to specs, bring it to the commission, and we probably will. I know we have taken on roads that didn't belong to the county, but they have to be so high. They got to have drainage. They've got to have all the specs for us to take over it.
Sure.
And that's what happened with Candy Kitchen was, and there's other people that develop throughout the city or the county that have all this property. They want to make a subdivision, and another place is Timber Lake.
Right, because that's in Cibola County too. Now, we've got just a few minutes to talk about a new state law.
Coming into an effect July 1st, I'm in the 1900s still.
We're still.
In 2016. This is Senate Bill 270. It was passed through the Senate this year. And introduced by Steve P. Neville. And he's out of Farmington area. And he's trying to promote a lot of that area in Farmington. They've got the mountains, and I'm really not familiar with Farmington. I've only gone in there to play games and we're out. And but I know there's a lot of farming and oil rigs and stuff. But they're going to implement. Senate bill is going to adopt or become law to let four-wheelers, or should I say side-by-sides. You know, you see these big old Grizzlies side-by-sides. They got tail lights, they got blinkers, they've got seat belts, they've got, you know, you can put car seats, strap car seats in it, but they're not legal. You cannot drive them on city limits. You'll see them, you know, they'll sneak around through town, they'll fly through your neighborhoods, and the reason they're flying through the neighborhoods is because they don't want to get caught. They've got to pay they got to pay license on them, yearly license plates. It's kind of like your trailers. You got to pay plates on them, and you've got to have insurance on them.
Okay. And so these are relating to motor vehicles, allowing recreational, off-highway, and all-terrain vehicles to drive on paved roads. So what that's going to mean to us is that we need to be aware of that additional hazard, and they need to be aware of the traffic.
Right. And they'll have to follow the same rules. I mean, it's just, you know, you have these mopeds that once in a while sneak around, and they're legal. I mean, as long as they can go 35 miles or higher is fine. The minimum speed that they should be able to sustain is 35 miles an hour, which would be the speed limit in the city. There's no way. There are certain rules, though. They can't go on divided highways. There's no way they can get on I-40. That will be a hazard. So it's just mostly for here in the city, and that's one of the projects that I'll be working on. And I see it as an economic venue, kind of like the bike rally. You know, when we said we were going to bring, I wasn't involved with the bike rally, but when they said that they were going to have this big old bike rally, we were like, oh my God, you know, we're going to have bikers and gangs, and we're going to have people running around nude, topless. Yeah, I mean, there was all these visions that people had, which it ended up being a really good event. It didn't, unfortunately, it didn't pan out to what the people wanted or the government wanted. And this is another thing. I see this as, you know, we've got plenty of mountains. You know, maybe we'll bring in outfitters. Maybe we'll have outfitters come in here and take people out hunting. Maybe we'll have people take you out to Zuni Canyon, to the railroad. You know, I just see it as another avenue there. We've met with the police officers here and the sheriffs, the village of Milan, and we've been meeting here and there before July and before we actually bring it up and put it to a vote to the commission, the trustees, or the council.
Sure. Well, there's some things that I think the public needs to be aware of, that they have to have headlights and tail lights. The vehicle has to have brakes, mirrors, and mufflers. The operator has to have a valid driver's license. The operator must be insured in compliance with the provisions of mandatory financial responsibility, and the operator must be wearing eye protection as well as a safety helmet. These are things that we see not happening with those that are off the road. They go around without a helmet, and I think that this is, personally, I think it's a good idea. A helmet saved my son's life one time.
Yes.
And so I'm for this.
Well, I mean, I think it will save a lot of this ruckus of them flying through town, zipping over one end to another, flying through neighborhoods. And the reason they're doing this is because they're trying to get from one end of the mount, from one gully to another gully, or from Zuni's to Mount Taylor or to the Mesa, or, you know, wherever they want to go, up behind the college. I'm for it, and I think, and as long as the police and the judges are for it, then if they understand it and we can go with it, I think the commission's going to pass it, and I think the trustees will too, and along with the council. But this is just a new project that's going to take effect. That could be something that I've worked on and done. You know, one thing I forgot to mention was going green, and that was another project that funding that we had gotten, and that's the wind farm that you know, I'm always proud that I see is the wind farm.
Sure. Well, we are out of time, and it looks as though we have taken a lot of your time, but the purpose of our meeting with Walter was to remind our audience that there are things, our city councilmen, our county commissioners have done things in the past that future and current county commissioners, councilors, and trustees build upon. And we thank you for your contribution, and we see that contribution moving forward. So I want to thank you for the hard work. It's not, people complain about our city, county, and village officials, but by golly, they don't want to run. So thank you so much.
Well, I'll be finishing 16 years now in December.
Okay, well, thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for your contribution. And thank you for tuning in to this segment of Cibola Treasures.
I remember the moment.
I'll never forget that moment.
That changed my life.
At that moment, it hit me. This is why I joined the Guard. We're soldiers, always ready to protect our country. But we've also got communities. Family, friends, neighbors who count on us. I couldn't believe it. I just saved a life. Somebody from my hometown.
See what it means to be a citizen soldier at NationalGuard.com.
Evidently, there has been a law that has been passed by the state that permits four-wheelers and various other motorized vehicles to be on our streets. This is going to be taking place soon, so be aware that we need to slow down and look for those. Also, school is getting out, and we need to be careful with our youngsters playing in the street, on their skateboards, and on their bicycles. So remember that this is a safety issue for our community, both of these. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of Cibola Treasures, brought to you by Seven Cities Productions and Comcast.